there is a particular kind of silence that follows a woman into a house where she is no longer loved. It is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of something worse. The hollow echo of a life she built with her own hands being dismantled by someone who never deserved to hold them. Maren Okafor learned this silence the way most women do. Not all at once but in small poisonous doses, until the day she decided the silence would belong to her. This is the story of a man who thought his wife was too soft to fight back, and the 6 months she spent proving that soft hands can still pull the rug out from underneath you. The notification pinged at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in February. Maren was sitting in the nursery of their Leaside townhouse in Toronto, nursing their 4-month-old daughter, Zuri. The baby had finally latched after 40 minutes of fussing, and the house was quiet except for the low hum of the furnace and the occasional crack of ice settling on the roof. Maren's phone was on the side table. She didn't reach for it, she didn't need to, she already knew. The ping was from a shared cloud account, one that her husband Declan Firth had forgotten they still shared. It backed up his photos automatically. Every photo, including the one he had just taken at 11:46 p.m., of a woman's bare shoulder, candlelit, with a champagne flute resting on a pillow embroidered with the logo of the Fairmont Chateau Laurier in Ottawa. Declan was supposed to be in Ottawa for a government infrastructure bid. His firm, Firth Urban Design, had been chasing a federal contract worth $12 million. He had kissed Maren on the forehead that morning, told her to get some rest, and reminded her that the bid presentation was at 8 a.m. sharp. There was no bid presentation, or maybe there was. Maren would find out later. But the photo on the cloud wasn't a conference room, it was a hotel suite, and the shoulder didn't belong to a government official. Maren looked down at Zuri. The baby's eyes were closed, her tiny fist curled around the collar of Maren's shirt. Maren felt the familiar, metallic taste rise in her mouth. The taste of adrenaline, of something cracking open behind her sternum. She swallowed it, she breathed, she opened the cloud account, she scrolled. There were dozens of photos, weeks of them, a woman with auburn hair and a gap-toothed smile, restaurant selfies, a screenshot of a flight booking, 2 seats, Toronto to Montreal, first class, a video. Maren didn't play it. She didn't need to hear what she already understood. The woman's name was in the contact card Declan had screenshotted and saved. Sienna Malteus, 26, interior designer. She worked at a boutique firm on Queen West that Declan's company had subcontracted on 3 projects last year. Maren closed the phone. She burped Zuri, placed her gently in the crib, wound the mobile with the felt birds, and stood in the dark nursery listening to the soft mechanical lullaby. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She walked downstairs, made herself a cup of chamomile tea, and sat at the kitchen island with a legal pad and a pen. She wrote one word at the top, timeline. Then she started planning. To understand what Maren did next, you have to understand who Maren Okafor was before Declan Firth decided she was furniture. Maren grew up in Brampton. Her mother, a Nigerian immigrant, worked double shifts as a respiratory therapist at Brampton Civic Hospital. Her father drove a cab until his back gave out. Then he did the books for 3 Caribbean restaurants on steels. Maren learned 2 things before she turned 12. How to stretch a dollar until it screamed, and how to read a contract like her life depended on it, because for her parents it often did. She graduated from the Schulich School of Business at 23. She didn't go into banking. She went into risk management for a global logistics company. Her job was to find the cracks in systems before they became collapses. She was exceptional at it. When she met Declan at a design gala in Yorkville, she was 27 and making 6 figures. He was 31, charming, and convinced that the universe owed him greatness. He told her she was the most brilliant woman he'd ever met. He told her he wanted a partner, not a trophy. He told her a lot of things. They married at a vineyard in Prince Edward County. Maren's mother cried. Declan's mother, a woman named Judith who wore her wealth like armor, told Maren the prenuptial agreement was just a formality. Maren read it anyway, every clause, every subclause, every definition section. The prenup had been drafted by Declan's family lawyer, a man named Harrington Wells, who had served the Firth family for 3 decades. It was designed to protect Declan's assets, his firm, his inheritance, his future earnings. But Harrington, either out of carelessness or quiet sympathy for the bride, had included a fidelity clause buried in Section 14. In the event of demonstrable marital infidelity by either party, the injured party shall be entitled to the full and immediate transfer of jointly held assets, including but not limited to real property, investment accounts and business equity held in joint or family trust structures. Declan had signed it without reading past page 3. He was too busy picking the wine list. That clause was now Maren's weapon. In the weeks following the cloud photo, Maren did not confront Declan. She did the opposite. She became warmer. She cooked his favorite jollof rice on Sundays. She laughed at his stories about the Ottawa bid. She told him he looked handsome when he left for work. She was the perfect wife. Not because she forgave him, but because she needed him comfortable. Comfortable people get sloppy, and sloppy people leave evidence. She hired a forensic accountant named Diane Chung, a sharp woman with a pixie cut and a reputation for dismantling fraudulent corporate structures in family court. Diane cost $400 an hour. Maren paid her from a personal savings account Declan didn't know existed, money she had been quietly setting aside since the first year of their marriage, not because she expected betrayal. Because her mother had taught her that a woman without her own money is a woman without a voice. Diane dug. What she found was worse than the affair. Declan had been billing Sienna's expenses, dinners, flights, hotel suites, a Tiffany bracelet, to the overhead account of Firth Urban Design. The company was structured as a family trust, with Declan as managing director. But the trust documents which Maren had co-signed at Judith's insistence gave Maren veto power over distributions exceeding $50,000. Declan had been approving his own expenses without disclosure. In 12 months, he had funneled over $90,000 of company funds into his affair. That wasn't infidelity, that was fraud. Maren documented everything. She downloaded statements, cross-referenced credit card receipts with hotel bookings, and built a spreadsheet so detailed it could have been submitted as evidence in a securities hearing. She saved it all in an encrypted folder, backed up to a secure server that Diane's firm maintained. Then she waited. The opportunity came on a Friday in late April. Declan told Maren he needed to fly to Vancouver for a client meeting. He would be gone for the weekend. He kissed Zuri on the forehead and told Maren to order something nice for herself, his treat. The moment his Uber pulled away from the curb, Maren picked up the phone and called 3 numbers. The first call was to Diane. Execute the freeze. Diane had prepared the paperwork weeks in advance. A motion filed in Ontario Superior Court to freeze the trust accounts pending a forensic review. The grounds, suspected misappropriation of fiduciary funds by the managing director. A judge had reviewed the evidence in chambers 2 days earlier and signed the order. The accounts were frozen by noon. The second call was to Harrington Wells, the Firth family lawyer. Harrington, this is Maren. Maren, how are you? How's the little one? She's wonderful. I'm calling about Section 14B. There was a long silence on the line. When Harrington spoke again, his voice was careful. You have proof? I have enough to wallpaper the courthouse. Another silence. I'll need to see it. Check your email. Harrington called back in 40 minutes. His voice was different, softer, almost apologetic. Maren, I'm sorry. This is ironclad. If you execute this clause, Declan loses his claim to the house, the joint investment portfolio, and his equity position in the trust. I know, he'll fight it, he can try. But Harrington, I need to ask you something. When that prenup was drafted, did you put that clause in on purpose? There was a pause. Then very quietly. Judith asked me to protect her son. I did. But I also believe in protecting the people her son might hurt. I've known the Firth men a long time, Maren. Maren closed her eyes. Thank you, Harrington. Don't thank me. Just make sure you're ready for what comes next. The third call was to a moving company. By Saturday morning, the Leaside townhouse was a shell. Maren had worked through the night with military precision, her logistics training finally serving its highest purpose. The furniture was loaded into a storage unit in Scarborough. Zuri's nursery was packed into labeled bins. Maren's personal belongings, her mother's jewelry, her degrees, her grandmother's Bible, went into the trunk of her Honda CR-V. She left 3 things behind. 1. Declan's clothes, dumped in black garbage bags in the garage. 2. A bottle of the 18-year-old Lagavulin he kept for special occasions, placed alone on the bare kitchen counter. 3. A manila envelope propped against the bottle. Inside was a printout of every photo from the cloud account, a summary of the forensic audit, and a single handwritten note on Maren's monogrammed stationery. You said you wanted a partner, not a trophy. I believed you. Section 14 by, read it this time, M. Maren strapped Zuri into the car seat, pulled out of the driveway and drove east on the 401 toward her mother's house in Brampton. She didn't look in the rearview mirror. Declan Firth landed at Pearson on Sunday night feeling excellent. The weekend in Vancouver, which was actually a weekend in Whistler with Sienna, had been exactly what he needed. He had convinced himself that the double life was sustainable. Maren was too busy with the baby to notice. She was too gentle to suspect, she was too dependent to leave. He was wrong on all 3 counts. He took a cab home. The first sign that something was off was the recycling bin. It was at the curb, but it was empty. Maren always had it overflowing by Sunday. He frowned and dragged his suitcase up the front steps. The key worked. That was the only normal thing about the next 5 minutes. He opened the door and stepped into a void. The hallway was bare, no shoes on the rack, no coat hooks occupied, no sound. The air smelled stale, like a house that had been closed up for days, not hours. Maren, he called. He walked into the living room. The sectional was gone. The TV was gone. The bookshelf, the rug, the framed photo of their wedding at the vineyard, all gone. He ran to the kitchen. The counter was empty except for a bottle and an envelope. He didn't open the envelope yet. He ran upstairs, the master bedroom, stripped, the closet, empty hangers swaying slightly as if something had just been removed. The nursery. Declan pushed open the nursery door. The room was bare, the crib, the change table, the rocking chair Marin's mother had shipped from Nigeria, vanished. The walls still had the faint outlines where the picture frames had hung, ghostly rectangles of brighter paint. He sank to his knees on the carpet. It smelled like baby powder and lavender. He pressed his palms into it like he could pull Zuri back through the fibers. Then he went downstairs and opened the envelope. He read it twice. The second time his hands were shaking so badly the pages rattled like dry leaves. He poured the Lagavulin. He drank it straight from the bottle. Then he called Sienna. "Hey babe, what's up? I thought you were home." "She took everything. The baby, the furniture, she knows about us. She knows everything." Silence. Then, "Define everything, the hotel receipts, the flights, the bracelet, she has all of it." The silence stretched longer this time. When Sienna spoke her voice had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something flat and calculating. "Declan, did you say she froze the accounts?" I haven't checked yet." "Check." He opened his banking app. The trust account, frozen. The jointness operating account, frozen, pending court review. His personal checking, 612.34 cent. "It's all gone," he whispered. "Okay," Sienna said. Her voice was brisk now, professional. "Declan, I think we need to take a step back. This is getting complicated and I have a business to protect. My firm can't be associated with. If this goes public, Sienna, I have nowhere to go. That's not really my problem, is it? You told me you were separated. You told me the divorce was already in motion. You lied to me too, Declan. I bought you a $4,000 bracelet, and I said thank you. Look, I'm not a lifeboat. Sort out your legal situation and maybe we can talk. But right now, I need to protect myself." Click. Declan stared at the dead phone. He finished the bottle. Then he threw it against the bare living room wall. It exploded in a spray of amber glass and 18-year-old scotch. Monday morning Declan drove to the offices of Firth Urban Design on King Street West. He walked in expecting to find his desk, his blueprints, his authority. Instead he found his business partner Theo Nakamura, waiting in the lobby with 2 cardboard boxes and a look that could curdle milk. "We need to talk," Theo said. "Not now, Theo. I'm dealing with a personal situation." It stopped being personal when the court froze the trust accounts. "I got a call from our accountant at 6 a.m. The CRA has been notified of a potential misappropriation. Do you know what that means?" Declan's stomach dropped. Wouldn't. She did, and she sent copies to the Broadview Heights client. "The $90,000 you expensed? $42,000 of it was billed against their project. They're threatening to sue and they've pulled the contract. That was our anchor project, Declan. $7 million. Theo, listen to me. I can fix this. I just need access to the accounts." "You don't have access. The court order is clear. And the board?" "Yes, we have a board now, because the trust restructuring your wife triggered requires independent oversight. The board voted this morning. You removed as managing director effective immediately." Theo set the cardboard boxes on the reception desk. "Your things, security will walk you out. You can't do this. My name is on the building, your name is on the lease. The lease is held by the trust. The trust is frozen. You don't own the name on the building anymore, Declan. You don't own much of anything." Declan looked at the boxes. On top of one sat a framed photo of him and Marin at the vineyard, the same one that had hung in his office for 3 years. Someone had placed it face down. He picked up the boxes. He walked out into the April rain on King Street without an umbrella. He put the boxes in the trunk of his BMW, which he would discover the next morning, was leased through the company and would be repossessed by Wednesday. For the next 3 months Declan Firth lived in a rented room above a shawarma shop on the Danforth. He sold his Tag Heuer watch for $800, a fraction of its value. He ate dollar ramen and drank bad coffee from the Tim Hortons on the corner. He grew a beard that made him look 10 years older. He called Marin every day. The number was disconnected. He called her mother. Her mother answered once, said, "She doesn't want to speak to you," and hung up. He called Harrington Wells. Harrington said he could no longer represent Declan due to a conflict of interest, and wished him well with a finality that sounded like a eulogy. Declan hired a cheap lawyer from a strip mall in Mississauga who took the case on a payment plan. The lawyer reviewed the prenup, the trust documents and the forensic audit, and then sat back in his chair and let out a long, slow breath. "Mr. Firth, I'm going to be honest with you. Your wife didn't just leave you. She dismantled your entire financial infrastructure in a way that is, frankly, legally flawless. The fidelity clause is enforceable. The forensic evidence of misappropriation gives the court grounds to freeze everything. And because you co-signed the trust amendments last year without reading them, and yes, she has a signed acknowledgement confirming you declined independent legal advice. You effectively gave her the authority to do exactly what she did. So what are my options?" You can contest the prenup. That will take 2 years and cost you money you don't have. You can petition for custody, but given that you have no stable housing, no income, and a pending CRA investigation, no family court judge in Ontario will grant you access beyond supervised visits. Or what? Or you accept the settlement she's offering. She's offering a settlement? The lawyer pulled a document from his file. Her counsel sent this over yesterday. She's offering you a one-time payment of $75,000, waiver of any further claims, and supervised visitation with your daughter once she turns 2, contingent on completing a parenting course and maintaining stable employment for 12 consecutive months. Declan stared at the number. $75,000. He had spent more than that on Sienna in a year. It was a fraction of what he had once been worth, but it was also more money than he currently had to his name by a factor of 100. She's being generous, the lawyer said quietly. Most people in her position would leave you with nothing. Declan signed the papers. It took him another year to rebuild something resembling a life. He found work as a junior designer at a small firm in Hamilton, doing the kind of drafting work he had delegated to interns 5 years ago. He rented a one-bedroom apartment near Gage Park. He completed the parenting course. He saw a therapist who told him things he didn't want to hear about narcissism and entitlement, and the difference between loving someone and possessing them. On a Saturday in October, 18 months after the night Maren found the photo, Declan drove to Brampton for his first supervised visit with Zuri. She was almost 2 now. She had Maren's eyes and his mother's chin. She didn't know who he was. Maren was waiting at the visitation center. She looked different. Not better or worse, just different. She wore her natural hair in a short twist out, no makeup. She looked rested. She looked like someone who slept through the night. They didn't speak much. Maren handed Zuri to the supervisor, a kind woman named Gloria who smelled like peppermint. Zuri cried when Declan tried to hold her. He sat on the floor and rolled a ball toward her until she stopped crying and rolled it back. It was the longest hour of his life. When it was over, Maren was waiting in the hallway. She was putting on her coat. Not the expensive Canada Goose parka he had bought her, but a simple wool petticoat. She looked up when he came out. She has your laugh, Maren said. Declan opened his mouth to say something, an apology, an excuse, a plea, but nothing came out. He just nodded. Maren zipped her coat. Goodbye, Declan. She walked out into the October sun. Declan watched her through the glass doors. She got into her Honda, checked the mirrors, and pulled away without looking back. He stood there for a long time, his hands in his pockets, watching the empty parking space where her car had been. There is one more thing, a detail that Declan didn't learn until much later, long after the settlement, long after the visits became routine, long after Zuri started calling him daddy, with the cautious affection of a child who has been taught that trust is earned, not assumed. It came from Theo Nakamura, of all people. They ran into each other at a coffee shop in Hamilton. Theo looked well. The firm had recovered, rebranded as Nakamura Design Collective, and landed the federal contract that Declan had been chasing when his world fell apart. You know what the funny part is? Theo said, stirring his flat white. Maren called me before she did any of it, before the court order, before the freeze, before any of it. She called you? She asked me to protect the employees. She said, Declan's going to lose the company, and that's his consequence to bear. But Aisha in accounting has 2 kids, and your junior designers have student loans. I need you to make sure they land on their feet. She had already worked out a restructuring plan. The board, the new articles of incorporation, the client retention strategy. She had it all in a binder, a physical binder. Declan. Color-coded tabs. Declan stared at his coffee. She wasn't trying to destroy you, Theo said. She was trying to contain the blast radius. You were the bomb, Declan. She was the engineer making sure nobody else got hurt. Declan didn't respond. He couldn't. Because in that moment, sitting in a Hamilton coffee shop with a $4 Americano, and a rented apartment, and a daughter who was just learning to trust him, he understood something he should have understood years ago. Maren Okafor was never the soft one. She was the foundation, and he had been so busy admiring his own reflection in the glass tower he thought he'd built, that he never noticed she was the only thing holding it up. When she walked away, she didn't just take the furniture and the money. She took the structural integrity, and everything he had constructed on top of her patience, her silence, her love. It all came down, not because she pulled it apart, because without her it was never going to stand. Some people build houses, some people build homes, and the ones who confuse the two always end up standing in an empty room, wondering where the warmth went. It went with her. It always goes with her.